Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, where everything you're about to hear and see has been done in one take. I'm your host, the One Take Man. I'm here on the Power Rangers fandom wiki, and I'm here because I want to do another video about uh, about Power Rangers, or more specifically about the Legacy Wars mobile game that that involves various characters within the franchise. I thought I had uh, everything I wanted to say about the franchise out of my system, but given that the game is turning 5 at the time this video was going to get uploaded, I thought I'd do one more video about it. And part of the reason why I'm on uh, not just on the wiki, but on the a list of characters of the Legacy Wars game is because I want to present to you my top 10 of the best characters within Legacy Wars. That does not mean the best characters that are the best characters from the franchise that are represented in the game, but rather how the characters work in game, as in as in what makes them interesting as fighting game characters beyond just Power Ranger characters. Before I get into the actual list, there are a few things I have to. I don't have to, but I want to explain. First up, the rules I'm putting on myself. Number one, uh, only one character per sub franchise or series. In order to explain that, let's look, for example, here at the hero characters from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which is a very well known first iteration. And as you'll notice, there are a whole bunch of them. Because there are a whole bunch of them, I'm only going to pick one of them to represent the series as a whole, and not just among the heroes, but also among the villains. Same for basically every other series. So that's why you will only see each series will only be represented once. Number two, another rule that I've put in place in order to avoid redundancy: only one version of any character can show up. I'll once again use characters from Mighty Morphin as example. As an example, you have here Jason Lee Scott, the Red Mighty Morphin Ranger. Jason Lee Scott also happens to be the Gold Zeo Ranger, but however, if the Gold Zeo Ranger shows up on the list, then the Red Mighty Morphin Ranger is banned from it. And same for every other character who shows up in several in several series or under several versions. Only one of those versions is eligible. Again, this is to avoid redundancy. At the third rule I want to mention: alternate skins don't count. King Sphinx is actually in this game, namely as an alternate skin for Goldar. However, even though he has his own distinctive uh, name and his distinctive look represented in the game, he does not have his own moves, and therefore he is not a distinctive character. I.e., what I'm saying is that in order for a character to be classified as a character, they need to have their own distinctive moveset, their own name, and their own look. And as far as I've been able to tell, these are also the criteria this fandom wiki uses. So that is why I'm going to use it for display purposes. What actually took me the most when it came to thinking how to make this video was how to create the display for it, because yeah, I thought just showing the wiki page would be a little bit too reductive, but everything else I tried just seemed overly complex. So we're going with what you're seeing now. Also, and the rule number 4 is about the actual criteria by which I am sorting these characters. They are judged by how effective they are in combat, by how much of their personality shines through um, in their moves, in their taunts, um, in their fight intro, in their fight outro, win or lose, how fun they are to play, how fun they are to play, not just playing with, but also playing against. So if I lose, I want to at least have the satisfaction of a hard-fought battle. So if a character can give me that, even if I'm fighting against that character, then that character is pretty much disqualified from this list. And also accessibility and upgradability. This game is somewhat infamous for being pay to win. So any character that can be engaging and fun without me having to pay for them is going to be ranked higher. As such, a lot of the characters on my list are sometimes considered low tier, but what can I say? Those low tier characters are the ones that are easily accessible for most people and the ones that are most fun to me. Also, again, this is my list. So this does not mean that all the characters that I describe as effective are effective overall. They are effective for how I play them. They are effective for what I think makes them interesting and makes me want to play them. And the fifth rule I'll mention, which didn't actually come into effect as I was making the list, in case I can't make a difference between, in case I can't figure out which of two or more characters should be ranked higher, the deciding factor will be how often I use them in game. That does indeed give preference to characters who have been in the game for longer, but you know what? Screw it. It's my list. I can do whatever I want. Before I get into the actual list, there are two honorable mentions I would like to mention. First up, from Power Rangers SPD, Anubis Doggy Kruger, the Shadow Ranger. I will admit this to him. I will admit this about him. He has some pretty solid moves, but he is not particularly interesting or dynamic or fun to play. And also, some of his attacks are very cheap. For example, confinement. Like you literally can't do anything except sit there and wait for it to run out. That totally puts a freeze on the game, and while it was interesting in the beginning because it changed the dynamic of a fight. After you see it for enough time, you start just getting it starts to just become annoying, and the rest of his moves aren't really interesting enough in a way that really compensates that. So he's the first honorable mention. For the second honorable mention, I'm gonna have to go to the villain section. From Power Rangers Jungle Fury, Daishi, the big bad of that particular series. Daishi is in many ways the exact opposite of Doggy Kruger in that he is very dynamic, very aggressive, very in your face. He is very much a pressure character who works at his best when when he is putting pressure on a character. As such, he is somewhat more fun, but also somewhat less efficient, somewhat less viable when it comes to competitive play. For that reason, even though I think he has a cool design and a very cool moveset, he is overall an honorable mention. With that out of the way, let's get into the actual list. Staying in the villains part for now. At number 10, opening up the list, we have Zenaku, the big bad of Power Rangers Wild Force. I have to admit I didn't see Power Rangers Wild Force growing up, so when he was announced for the first time, I was like, okay, who's this guy? He's supposed to be a wolf? Really? I don't see it. And then I got to actually play a bit as him, and I noticed, his attacks. I also noticed how he moves, how he fights, and just in general the kind of charisma he exudes. And I was like, yep, I can see how he's a wolf. also his design is very cool with all these with all these guards that that do serve a very pragmatic purpose, and also add a bit to his menace. He has perhaps the coolest looking villain in the entire game, and Lord Zed is also in this game, so that's legit high praise. Also, he has a pretty cool special, which let's see, uh, calls upon the strength of the full moon in order to gain the ability to silence his opponent's defensive moves. In the right situations, this thing is absolutely lethal. However, uh, the right situation doesn't really come up often enough, so you're much better off relying on the rest of his arsenal, which is actually pretty good, surprisingly balanced. But he is still vulnerable to a lot of potential opponents that could come up. So he doesn't really have as many favorable matchups as I would like. Still, he's a very fun character to play around with. For that reason, he is the number 10. At number 9, I'm gonna have to jump back to the heroes. Where is that lady? Here she is. Lauren Shiba, Super Samurai Red Ranger. She is she's actually, I think, one of the starting characters of the game. So she is one of like 10 or 20 characters that you can play with right from the start. And she has a pretty good, pretty balanced move set appropriately. She she's quick, she's elegant, she can strike somewhat fast, and she's still very and she is still and she's constantly tweaked. Actually, a lot of characters are constantly tweaked that in such a way as to still make them viable. And the fact that she is still a very viable player, a very viable character uh, even after 5 years by now, I think that's very telling of how effective she is, and I very much and I enjoy playing with her, even if even if I find even if I sometimes stumble using her. So for that reason, Lauren Shiba is at number 9. At number 8, jumping a bit back in the franchise history, we got Cassie Chan, Pink Turbo Ranger. Cassie is, and I don't exactly remember when she came into effect, but I can say she is surprisingly effective when it comes to her, when it comes to all of her strikes and all of the ways in which she can counter her opponents. Also, she is very on point. Turbo is very much the car-based season, at least of early Power Rangers history, and a lot of her moves, while a little bit cheesy, very much fit that. You have this great defensive attack. You have this great charging kick. You have this great and you have all these other and okay, two other moves that are quite effective in what they do. Also, she has a very good dynamic. She has a very good balance between movement speed and attack speed. She is she's that which all goes to make her a very interesting and very enjoyable character to play as. For that reason, Cassie gets the number 8 slot in my countdown. Moving up a bit in the world, we got at number 7 Jason Lee Scott, the Mighty Morphin Red Ranger. Jason is probably the most well-known character of all the characters on this list, given he was the leader of the initial team, the one that got the ball rolling on the entire franchise. But I'm not going to talk about his role within the franchise. I'm here to talk about him as a character in the game. However, as you might imagine, those are those are somewhat linked, because given he was one of the first characters in the entire history of Power Rangers. He was also one of the first characters in this game, and as such, he has has a surprisingly well balanced and very dynamic uh, very dynamic moveset. He has you can do, and he's still very fun to play. You can he has great movement speed. He has some devastating attacks that you can fire off just like that instantly, and and all around he is very much a utility player. Like anyone can pick him up, but to play him well is quite an art form, if I may say so myself. Uh, he's so yeah, for these reasons, Jason arrives at number 7 on this list. Going back a bit, going back to the list at number 6. Where is she? Where is she? At number 6, we got Kendrix Morgan, Lost Galaxy Pink Ranger. She is the second Pink Ranger on this list, and spoiler alert, she's not going to be the last. She has a lot of great she has a lot of character. I haven't really mentioned that too much in the with the other characters, because most of them. Okay, I will say I did say that Zenaku actually has a lot of is actually a very cool character, and he has a lot of personality in as far as he is a self-assured badass. Everyone else is also kind of that, but they are also more tied into that ideal of heroism that Power Rangers kind of was kind of based upon, at least initially. Kendrix is the first one to really break the mold on that. She's a little bit more playful and a little more uh, and a little more fun to manipulate. She does have a weird cat-like attribute to a lot of her moves, but overall that still makes her. But overall that adds to make her more interesting. Also, her attacks are, for the most part, very effective and can be used at a wide variety of ranges, and and can be used at a wide variety of ranges. I should just learn to stop sentences. Anyway. But that being said, don't think that she's some pushover. These attacks actually have a lot of oomph, and if they get you, you're gotten. Not gone, you're gotten. Gotten. Uh, she's she is very fun and very effective to play, and you can very much have a very tense, very close back and forth with almost any character with her, if you know how to play your cards right. I've had quite a few surprising, and maybe not surprising, but rewarding upsets when playing with her. And she can counter a wide variety, not just of moves, but also of sequences. And she has a lot of combo potential, probably more so than any character on this list so far. For that reason, she also makes it harder than the others on this list so far. At number 6. At number 5. I know I've seen her here somewhere. Please give me a moment. She is right here. Gia Moran, Super Mega Force Yellow Ranger. She is, as I think you can tell, Super Mega Force as well as Mega Force was based on had a pirate theme going, and her moves basically are very much in keeping with that. She is very they use her weapons very well, and given she has both long range and and short range attacks, she's also very versatile, and also she is very playful. She is very fun to have under my fingers, so to say. She has a great mobility and just about the right weight, the right girth. So when you so that when you play her, most of your plays feel as impactful as they ultimately end up being, which is something I very much enjoy. Gia is also one of the characters who was one of the first characters you get to play as, and also one of the first characters in the game. So the fact that she is still, this to some extent at least, viable after all this time is still very interesting and very entertaining. I I can't help but enjoy playing around with this with a pirate lady. For that reason, she clocks in at number 5. At number 4, jumping back into the villains section of this list, I have to admit I was a bit surprised when I saw she made it all the way at number 4. We have Astronema, a general from Power Rangers in Space. Astronema is pretty much a version of what Rita Repulsa from the 2017 movie is in this game. An all or nothing uh, what should I call her? Glass cannon, so to speak. Like she has a lot of powerful attacks, but not a lot of defensive options. Actually, her only defensive options are just running back. Nevertheless, the attacks she can use are very are very effective and allow for some uh, some surprisingly powerful counterplay and and combo options. She is she she's perhaps the most recent character I mentioned I've had show up on this list, and she is and I have to say she had the least amount of time to really establish herself in game when compared to most of the other characters. However, she's done it so well and so effectively that I can't help but I can't help but feel like she's one of the best characters here. And in fact, she is, as I've said, the fourth best character, given she also has a lot of great matchups. So, number 4. At number 3, we got the Putty from the 2017 movie. I have to admit, when I was putting the list together, I was actually surprised Putty actually made it this high. I I knew Putty was good, but I didn't know he was, or rather it. I should call him. I should call it. I should refer to Putty as it because there isn't really any other gender signifier that Putty has. So first of all, let's talk a bit about design. I don't really talk about design too much because it really Putty has a very chunky design. It looks like it's carrying a lot of power and like it can use all of that power, and for the most part, yes, it can. All of its attacks are all of its attacks uh, really showcase just how much strength its frame carries, and delivering that strength is very satisfying. It feels like it feels like it feels exactly as it looks, and that level of synergy between design and gameplay is something that I is something that I very much enjoy, especially when you especially when I combine that with the fact that these attacks allow for great combo options and allow you to go from one attack to the next almost effortlessly. It it makes Putty a very a very satisfying character to play as. You really feel like you have the world in your hands, so to speak. So for that reason, in spite of being technically a more low tier character, Putty very much, for my money at least, uh, belongs in the uh, belongs in the top three and earns itself the bronze medal for on this countdown. And number two, going back to the heroes section of this list, where is this? Where is her series? Let's see. Oh, here she is. Jen Scott's, the Pink Time Force Ranger, or rather Time Force Pink Ranger, as per the as per the name conventions I settled for. Um, she is in many ways the exact opposite of the previous entry, the Putty. Where Putty is chunky, she is lean. Where Putty is strong, she is graceful and fast. And while Putty is by no Putty's by no means slow, but she really takes it to a whole nother level uh, when it comes to her speed, and when it comes to how many of her attacks are very quick, but very devastating, and allow for a lot of great combination play as well as counterplay. While she doesn't really have many defensive options, the sheer variety of her attacks otherwise and all of the uh, things she can do, all the things she can do aside from that make her a very entertaining and very satisfying character, not just to play but also to master. It is it is, as I've said, very satisfying to play. She ends up being very fun. Her games with her always lead to a lot of back and forth, and and I can't help but like that, regardless of whether or not I'm playing with her or against her. And for a long time, she would have, if I made this list at almost any other point in my history with the game, she would have probably been number one. But instead, right now, she gets the number two slot in the gold medal. If you're wondering who dethroned her, well, I'll get to that soon enough. My number one best character, or the character I think is the best in Power Rangers Legacy Wars, is Daggeron, the Solaris Knight from Mystic Force. First of all, Daggeron has a very cool design. That's not necessarily a merit of the game, but it is a merit of his, and also his personality, as far as it comes through in his movements, in his taunts, and generally in his attacks. Really suits him as a very dashing, very bold, and very confident warrior for light. It it makes him a joy to play. What also makes him a joy to play is just how effective he is at and how effective he is at actually bashing people. He is bashing people. All of his moves are quite strong, and allow for some very diverse and very effective counterplay. Also, the combinations you can get going with him are absolutely amazing. But what really puts him over the edge is his special. Of all the characters, and I just realized that of all the characters on my list, only number 10 and number 1 have a special. That's not by design. It just happened. Anyway, let's talk about his special, which changes his entire moveset and adds DOT, or damage over time. That in many ways makes him a very makes him a very dangerous, very powerful character, but also changes the dynamic of the game of every fight he's in an entirely new and entirely in a very satisfying way. He is pure entertainment, and every fight you get in with him is something you never know what to expect. it changes in many ways the dynamics and the paradigms that this game was based upon, and and makes them more interesting, more fun, more playable, and also makes the players more curious in learning about him and knowing how to best use him in basically any situation. And I can guarantee you that regardless of what kind of game situation you find yourself in, you will definitely uh, have your fun with Dagron. I've played with him. I've played against him. I've won with him. I've won against him. I've also lost with him, and I've also lost against him. Never did I think I lost because I did I think I won because my no because his attacks were cheap, or because it was or because he made the match too easy. Never when I lost against him did I think it was I made it too easy for the he made it too easy for the for my opponent to beat me. He always provides he always provides a great challenge and an outstanding back and forth when in any game he shows up for. And for that reason, Dagron gets the gold medal, gold to match his solar theme, and is, for my money at least, the best character in Power Rangers Legacy Wars. And yeah, that was my list. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you also enjoyed the video tied to it. Tied to it. If you did, then please leave a like and maybe share this video wherever you think other people will like it as well. If you have anything you'd like to add to what it is I said in this video, the comment section awaits your input. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe. And ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. Until next time, I have been the One Take Man.